Whittaker versus Gastelum had some real problems to it. Okay, first off, Whittaker versus Gastelum was not a close fight. It was 5 rounds for Whittaker and none for Kelvin. However, it was extremely competitive. Kelvin Gastelum looked great. Kelvin Gastelum lost all 5 rounds and looked great. And we've seen this before, guys. I mean, I'll just bring it to you because we're on the heels of part 2 right now, but that's Masvidal versus Usman 1. Usman, there was no question who won this fight, who was going to win this fight, who took charge of the fight, but it was a very competitive match, particularly in light of short notice. Now, I only bring that to you because there are many similarities here with Kelvin. Kelvin didn't do this on 8 days and have to fly across the world, but he did it on very short notice. He had to add 2 rounds of conditioning and strategy and grit and heart to his game in a very short period of time, and then he went out and went tit for tat with a former world champion. I think many of you might have forgot how good Bobby Knuckles is. You might have forgot because a new shiny trinket has come to town known as Israel Adesanya. Adesanya is so damn good that I feel as though we've forgotten just how good the rest of the guys are. Maybe not as good as Adesanya, but they sure are good. And when I was watching Whittaker, so I want to disclose that, okay, in case anybody missed it, in case anybody made the bad decision of going and watching the nerd versus the Olympian instead of this fight, I do want to tell you about it because both guys look great. They really did. And you have to understand how well Kelvin Gastelum fought if you want to give full credit to Whittaker. And Whittaker deserves full credit here. But there was one thing that stood out, and it has not been front page news, and it should be, which is Whittaker, a former world champion, a current #1 contender, and a future Hall of Famer, has added something to his arsenal. Rounds 1 and round 5. 2 things happened. Please don't miss it. Whittaker took down Kelvin Gastelum and kept him there, both rounds. Now, for Whittaker, one of the great strikers the sport has ever seen, period, for Whittaker to add a takedown, oh my goodness, I must tell you guys, so hard. There's so many things that go into a takedown, understanding of wrestling, but there's geometry. There's algebra, there's calculus that takes place in knowing where this guy is. What's the timing to change elevation, to get into the body? Where do my hands go? Where do my hips go? Where does my head go? There's a reason that kids that are good at wrestling start when they're 7 and 8, 9 years old. It's not something that you can go out and learn or that anybody would want to put the energy and dedication towards learning later in life. Whittaker did. So not only did Whittaker went for 4 takedowns in this fight, guys. He got 3 of them. Robert Whittaker, are you hearing me? Robert Whittaker, the great striker, went for 4 takedowns. He succeeded with 3, and in rounds 1 and 5, he kept him there. Getting a guy down and explaining the mathematics that go into understanding those positions is only one element of what you saw. Whittaker's ability to keep Kelvin there is a whole nother story. In round 1, Kelvin was so surprised he got taken down, he kind of cooperated. He kind of stayed there and then just made a mental change. I'm not going to let him take me down again. But when he did get down, it was totally different. Kelvin did not stay there. He realized I'm going to have to get myself to his feet. He created some real scrambles. He got away. But in round 5, Kelvin did the same thing where Kelvin put a lot of energy forward. He put a lot of effort in trying to get up, but Whittaker followed him. Whittaker stayed behind him. Whittaker got his lock. He understood where the hips are. He understood driving him back down. He understood lift the hips, put the weight on the hands. These are very advanced things. And it wasn't a matter that Whittaker just got better at his wrestling. Wrestling is a positional change. It's a takedown. Once you're there, what are you going to do? Whittaker was so heavy on top. Whittaker was smothering. Whittaker was using shoulder pressure. Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern's father is called Megaton. And I even read something online how he got that name. I'm not even going to tell you what it said because it isn't true. Megaton, her father, got that nickname because he competed at 175 pounds. But when he was on top of you, he felt like a megaton. He knew how to be heavy. He knew where those pressure points were. He knew about getting on his toes. He knew about driving into his opponent, not resting a knee or an elbow on the mat. I only offer you that because Whittaker was what we call heavy on top. That is an understanding of mechanics from a physicality standpoint. Understanding where you are, where your opponent is. Whittaker was heavy. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't looking for ground and pound. He was looking for moments. He was looking to pass. He was looking for position. He had a very clear plan. These things take a lifetime of work. Whittaker's done it in 2 years. And I bring it to you because if we're looking forward to who is the number one contender, and is it Whittaker, meaning Whittaker versus Adesanya, what is going to be different this time? Well, what's going to be different is now Adesanya has a whole nother element to worry about that none of us knew existed. Even if I would have heard that Whittaker was going to think about his wrestling and his groundwork, I would not have been able to come to you guys confidently and tell you he's going to succeed because it just takes a long time. It's very hard to do. He did succeed, and he did it in a short period of time. And answering the question as to what's different does exist. Now, I do not believe that Whittaker goes right into Adesanya just because. I believe Marvin Vettori versus Adesanya is very much on the table. I also believe that Whittaker and Vettori are now in a fight right now. It's going to be for headlines. It's going to be for mandate of the masses. It's going to be for popularity. It's going to be for demand. But they are in a fight right now. I am also not confident at this point that the winner of the fight, the verbal fight, the posturing in the media between Marvin and Bobby Knuckles, I'm not positive that the winner of that then gets Adesanya. There is a part of me that believes Adesanya might take a step back and go, you two figure it out. I don't know what Adesanya's appetite is for rematches, but it does appear that he's going to have to do a rematch. I would think a young champion like him would like to spread it around a little bit, which is where you could have a Darren Till style situation. I don't think Darren Till's out of the talks because Adesanya hasn't given his blessing yet. Adesanya is going to pick somebody. I'm putting myself in Adesanya's shoes. There's a part where I'd say, hey, Till, come on in. Hey, Whittaker, Vettori, you both are great, but I fought you both before. I don't really love the rematch idea, so you guys go at it. One of you gets eliminated. I'll take ever who's standing. There's a part of me that believes that that scenario is in play. Now, Vettori, with the right strategy, could have us all changing our minds by this time tomorrow. Whittaker cannot. Whittaker does not possess the skills needed to captivate the audience and to win in the media. So if it's Whittaker versus Vettori, Vettori's going to beat him. I'm just not certain that we're looking at this chessboard correctly. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Adesanya out of nowhere, out of left field, isn't going to step in and choose Till. With these two as the co-main, you guys figure it out. I'll take on the winner, or Darren will take on the winner. I think that that's a very possible scenario. And I do think at 185, as we're looking between Vettori and Whittaker, which looks like the very obvious options, I think possibly we're looking in the wrong direction. We're not going to know till we hear from Izzy. But if Izzy has a greater interest in parity than he does in redoing the same thing a second time, and in fairness, most guys do. Most guys would rather do something a first time. We have to hear from Izzy. Until then, it is game on. It is Whittaker versus Vettori in the media, and it's a game that Whittaker's not going to play, which means Vettori is going to emerge.